Okay. Hello, everyone. We are recording now. So before we start, thank you everyone for joining us for the first of our three-part virtual audio-described Missouri Botanical Gardens series. For those of you who don't know me, I think most of you guys do know me. My name is Megan Harms, and I'm the Arts and Culture Coordinator for MindsEye. Tonight, I'm also your audio describer. And this event was made possible with funding in part from the Arts and Education Council. And oh wait, here's someone else is coming in. Let's let them in. Okay. We will be sending out a survey. We won't do it until after the third week, but it never hurts to tell you now that we're going to send out a survey. It's really helpful for us to get that information so we can send it back to our funders at the Arts and Education Council and tell them this is what we did and this is what they liked. So also before we begin, let me let Jennifer in. Oh my, she's our hostess with the mostest from Missouri Botanical Gardens, so I got to make sure she's in here. Before we start, we would also like to acknowledge that MindsEye is located in Belleville, Illinois, the ancestral lands of many people, including the tribes commonly known as the Sioux, Quapaw, Miamia, Osage, Kaskaskia, and Kickapoo. We also acknowledge those tribes who pass near our area during their forced removal, including the Cherokee, Delaware, Sac and Fox, and Shawnee. This process of knowing and acknowledging the ground beneath our feet is a way of honoring and expressing our gratitude for the people on this land before us. So thanks again, everyone, for joining us. First, I just want to give a quick hello to our guest, Janet Wassalzick. Say it one more time, Janet.
Wassalzick.
Janet Wassalzick. We are going to learn more about her later, but I just wanted you to be able to hear her voice now for a second. And
it's great to be here. I appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you, Janet. We also have a couple people from the garden here who may be interjecting when they know something. Hi, Jennifer.
Hello, everyone.
And Neshka is also here.
Hello, how are you?
So we are glad to have everyone. So just a reminder of what we're doing here. First, we're going to watch an audio described video of the garden, and I will mute you all during that video, and hopefully everything will work fine. Oh, there's Jason, my boss, so let me let him in. So during the video, you are going to hear my voice as the audio describer, and then you'll also hear the host of the video. And that video is about 11 minutes long this week. And then afterwards, after the video, there are about 5 slides that I'm going to show you and describe, just because there were things from the video that there wasn't really enough time to describe that I thought were really interesting. So we'll do that. And then we will do some Q&A discussion, and Janet will share her expertise. So I am going to screen share, and all is going to go well, right, everybody? Screen share. And the sound is on. The video is optimized. And someone will let me know if you can't hear it as soon as I press play in 3, 2, 1.
Hi, I'm Deborah Laumandier. I'm senior horticulturalist here at the conservatories at Missouri Botanical Garden. I'm going to be giving you a virtual tour of the Climatron today. The garden was established in 1859. For the first half of the 20th century, where we were standing was the Palm House, a huge Victorian-style display house constructed of cast iron and curved plate glass. When it needed to be replaced in the 1950s, the garden's director decided to look to the future, and they went with the ultimate in mid-century modern, a geodesic dome. The Climatron was to be modern, the aluminum structure supporting a plexiglass covering and an automated climate control system for heating and cooling. The Climatron turned 60 this year. It's 11 days after I did. I'm going to take you back in time today, show you what was old in the Climatron in 1960, what was new in 1960, and what we're trying to do now in the 21st century.
Audio description for the Climatron hosted by Deb Laumandier is provided by MindsEye. Deb stands in front of thick greenery. A tall fern with long fronds juts out directly behind her head.
These plants, this bed, was in the old Palm House. This is called the cycad ridge. Cycads are an old primitive plant family. They're called dinosaur plants because they were around in the time of the dinosaurs. This is where dinosaurs ate because flowering plants hadn't evolved yet. I always say I know why dinosaurs went extinct, because their diet. Because if you touch these things, they're like fiberglass with thorns. This blue plant, Encephalitis Horridus, has been in the garden since 1917. These ones here behind me, Diuon spinulosum, these have been in the garden since 1907.
Looking down from high above the ferns, the shiny green fronds radiate out from the center, forming a large circle.
This little cycad is a Diuon eduli. We have 3 of these. They were gifts from the Mexican government after the 1904 World's Fair. And this little plant here is Pulisius Marginata. The interesting thing about this little plant is, as far as we can tell from our records, this has been part of the garden, part of the Climatron since 1898. Yeah, obviously, we've taken cuttings and restarted it over the years, and it's been recently cut back, which is why it's so small right now. But 1898 is the best record we can come up with it. It's originally purchased from Sanders and Company in St. Albans, England.
The thick, rich, dark green plants give you the impression you're standing in the center of a jungle.
Not all the plants in the Climatron are terribly old. This one here behind me is a relative youngster, planted in 1982, the year I started the garden. It's a double coconut palm from the Seychelles Islands. It's called double coconut because the seed looks like 2 coconuts fused together. It was a gift from the National Tropical Botanical Garden in Hawaii, and it's the largest seed in the plant kingdom.
She holds the large seed with both hands, about the size of 2 footballs stuck together at the seams.
This is the banyan tree, Ficus bananalis. It's been in the Climatron since 1960. It's one of our first plants that we have records of. It's been in the garden, though, since 1918. You can see it has the interesting area roots coming down. Some of these trees have been known to spread out in their native habitats in India and in the tropics to cover acres.
The light shines on the thin, twisted trunk and a cluster that look more like tall roots above ground.
Some of you probably remember we closed in 1988 for 2 years and underwent a major renovation. We took out the plexiglass, which just in time, I don't know if you all can see this, this is an actual sheet of our old plexiglass.
Props up a large, crackly triangle.
You can sort of see my hand through it. It's very brittle, very crazed, it's very yellowed. And it was still has the old neoprene gasket in the back. But what we replaced it with is actual true glass. 2 sheets of tempered glass with a sheet of plastic sandwiched in between. We got all new sidewalks, we got all new beds, got a lot of new plants. We kept a lot of the old plants. We just put orange construction fencing around them and drove the bulldozers around where it needed to be.
A small waterfall.
And it took 2 years. The renovation allowed us to preserve this bit of the tropical rainforest here in the Midwest for people to enjoy for many more years to come.
Yellow and orange glass sculptures stand in the middle of lush green plants. Sunset Herons by Dale Chikuli.
I love plants with stories. This is your Dracaena. We used to think it was Dracaena umbraculifera, which is a species that's extinct in the wild from the island of Mauritius. And we did some DNA studies and discovered, no, that it's actually a cousin, Dracaena reflexa, which is still a cool story because the plant has been here at the garden since 1903. And then 10 years ago, here on the other side of the sidewalk, it started to sprout pups up. For some reason, we don't know why. It was only 10 years ago, but it started to sprout pups. Right before quarantine, we had a staff meeting and they showed a picture of Henry Shaw lying in state in the museum building, surrounded by potted plants. And some of us realized that one of the potted plants looked familiar, and we realized it was actually it was this Strassenia as a young pup. It was very distinctive with the long, thin, wavy leaves, and it was obviously couldn't be anything else. So from 1903, now we know that the plant has been here at least since 1889.
Long green leaves hang down around from a tall, thin trunk like a pom-pom.
This shrub right here is Presentia Portugensis. It's from the island of Puerto Rico. It's an endangered species. When we first got this plant back in 1990, we had 3 of them, and there were only 42 known to exist in the world. They've discovered more since then. Very few seedlings. This suspected that the seeds are dispersed by a rodent that's extinct on the island. Which makes another reason that makes it so important that we keep plants like this alive in the Climatron.
A slender path winds around a corner, passing under a structure crowded with vegetation.
This is called a Queen's palm, but I always think of it as Alan's palm. Alan Galuski was head of the horticulture department when I first started here at the garden in 1982. He came here to the garden in the 1970s with Dr. Raven from California, and was here for the building of the Japanese garden as well. He was so smart and so talented, and he died of a pulmonary embolism March of 1988, the day before the Climatron closed for renovation. And this palm was in a pot in his office.
The tall, skinny palm tree reaches all the way up to the top of the dome. 2 fronds stick out to the side like arms. The rest reach up to the sky.
This is Pandanus copelandii from the Philippines. You can see it's got these cool prop roots down here.
Pyramid of tight roots.
These are actually to help hold it up because they normally grow in swamps. This tree is it's one of the original trees here in the Climatron from the 1960s. The only tree we saved down here on the lower level during the renovation in 1988. I know I saw a picture once of this tree being brought in as a ball and burlap on the end of a front end loader through the back of the Climatron before it was constructed in 1960, but I haven't been able to find that picture since. So I know this is one of the original plants from 1960. This is also one of the only tree in here that I've ever personally climbed. If you look at it, how the branches are structured, it's actually built in ladder form. It's like made to climb. I used to climb it once a year to clean all the dead leaves out of it.
The trunk is narrow with 3 branches that stick out slightly above the other like a winding staircase.
These are bananas. Banana plant. A lot of people say banana trees, but that's not correct because tree implies wood. There's no wood in these. They're the world's largest herb. You can cut it with your fingernail.
Slides down nail.
You can cut one down with a pocket knife, which I've done before, just to prove to myself that I could. Because once these individual fruits develop on here and turn yellow, we have to take the plant out. They only bear once. And from the size of a small sucker, about knee-high, up to full size, and the fruit turning yellow and ripening takes about 2 years.
A cluster of dozens of green bananas grow bending upward toward large leaves. A spiny flower stem hangs down from the center of the banana bunch.
Part of the garden's mission is to discover and share knowledge about plants. And here in the Climatron, we do that by growing plants from parts of the world called biodiversity hot spots.
A huge waterfall.
Biodiversity hot spots are places with species found nowhere else on Earth and that are threatened by human population pressure and now climate change. There are around 30 such places in the world, and one is Madagascar and the other islands of the Indian Ocean. This bed here is where we help to preserve plants like the Cylindroplyne and the Nesicodon and Wright's gardenia. Other tropical hotspots such as Hawaii and the Caribbean are also areas that the Climatron plans to showcase.
In the Climatron, water trickles down over a small waterfall behind ferns.
This is a relatively new area we just put in this year in the Climatron. We're calling it the Gizmyriad Gallery. Gizmyriads are a plant family. The most specimen you're most likely familiar with is African violets. African violets are Gizmyriads. Got little ones right here. A lot of these were started from seed from Gateway West Gizmyriad Society. So we're gonna see how they do here in the Climatron. Some have been here a while. This columnia here was actually collected by myself and Dr. John McDougall back in Ecuador back in 1991. So it's been here in the Climatron for a while.
Small purple flowers with 4 or 5 petals.
I hope you all have enjoyed this virtual tour of the Climatron. See where we've come from and where we plan on going. Every plant has a story. And I've enjoyed sharing a few of them with you today.
The sun shines down on the dense greens, and the bright blue sky is visible through the glass of the dome-shaped Climatron with its hexagonal panels. Outside in the distance are the blurry outlines of brown winter trees. We hope you enjoyed this audio-described spotlight of the Climatron at the Missouri Botanical Garden.
Stop. Okay. So, everyone, I'm back. So we hope you enjoyed that video. I do have some photos that I want to describe for you. But first, I want to introduce our guest, and it's mainly I need to introduce her now because I'm scared you'll ask questions about the photos I'm about to show you and I won't have the answers for them. So Janet Wassalzick, yes, is our special guest tonight. Her background is in computer technology, but she's been a volunteer at Missouri Botanical Gardens since 2012 when she retired. She started in the school programs with classes for children that come in various field trips. In addition, she offers interpretation in the Tower Grove House, which was Henry Shaw's country estate home, and provides public tours as a docent. She finds her enjoyment at the garden from meeting people from around the world and learning something new every time she attends. It is truly her happy place. Hi, Janet. Thanks for being with us. So now I am going to screen share again for just a couple minutes. Again, let's hope that I share the right screen the right way. So let's give this a whirl. So hopefully now you guys with vision are seeing a slide that says additional photos. Climatron. So here we go. And I assume someone will tell me if that's not the right thing. So, okay. So this is a photo of the exterior of the Climaton. I had a hard time starting to describe this. So dictionary.com's scientific definition of a geodesic dome is a domed or vaulted structure of straight elements that form interlocking polygons. And to be fair, that's about the 5th definition that I tried. Some of them were really terrible to understand. But it's based on the principles of Buckminster Fuller's geodesic designs, although you normally think of those made out of Climatron or out of triangles, and these are made out of hexagons. So if you've ever had one of those toys that starts out as a small ball and then you pull it out and it expands into a big, large sphere, that's what I think of when I think of the Climatron. It looks like that, except you can't fold down the Climatron. So think of almost an exterior skeleton of metal hexagon frames, kind of like a honeycomb that form a dome. And inside those hexagon frames are clear glass. You may also be familiar with the big silver dome at Epcot Center. That is also a geodesic dome, although that one is almost a total sphere. It's like a big ball. And this is like if you took a ball and cut it in half at the center. So it's flat in the middle. So in this photo, we're facing the door of the Climatron, and there's this tall band of greenery that it completely encircles the whole dome, or at least what I can see in this picture. And this is a guess, so correct me if I'm wrong, it looks like it's maybe 18 or 20 feet, this greenery that goes up. So as you walk up to the building, you couldn't actually just, put your nose up to the glass, which seems like a nightmare, but you can't actually get to the glass there because there's greenery around it. And this is from Mobot's website. The Climatron has no interior support and no columns from floor to ceiling, allowing more light and space per square foot for plants than conventional designs. It rises 70 feet in the center, spans 175 feet in diameter at the base, has 1.3 million cubic feet, and encloses approximately 24,000 square feet, which is more than half an acre. Which I know those numbers may not mean a lot, but it's big. And this is the second photo of the Sunset Herons by Dale Chikuli, which I mentioned in the video. And near the base of the waterfall is a sculpture by Dale Chikuli called Sunset Herons. I don't know if this is one piece or several pieces that are clustered together because the bottom is underwater. So what's visible to guests appears to be 7 individual pieces, and each has a narrow tubular bottom that comes up out of the green water to look like long necks that lead to a bulbous section that is similar to the shape of a bird's head, and then it tapers off into a thin point. So all the pieces are curved, they curve like a bent neck, but they're all different. So some are close to the water, some lift up to the sun, and none are straight and really give the impression of movement. They look like 7 birds in the water. And to be clear, they're not they're not made to look like birds. It doesn't look like 7 birds in the water, but they do have that feeling of birds standing there. And they're also not all exactly the same color. They're mostly yellow with orange and red, and the colors, the colors of a sunset. And the head shape, the quote unquote head shapes, have darker colored streaks that flow in the same direction. So this really lends to that sense of fluidity and movement, because the stripes are going the same direction as the head down to the neck. And I was talking about this with Angela, my coworker, that every time I'm at the garden, it makes me do a double take. Like, I'll walk by and I'll look at it, and then I'll think, what was that? And I'll look back because I forget, are they real birds? Are there birds in here? No, it's sculpture. So this is the next photo. This is an antique photograph of Henry Shaw lying in state in the museum building in 1889. It's a black and white photo and actually has a white border around it with the photographer's info. So we're looking at a photo of a photo. It seems like this photo was probably taken from the second floor, looking down onto the open casket of Henry Shaw, which sits on a rectangular rug. He wears a dark suit and his right arm is folded over his chest. And right behind the casket are a cluster of palms in all shapes and sizes. And some seem to maybe hang down over the casket, and others reach all the way up to the second floor. There is a wide space in front of the casket, like for people to walk past. So it's like it's a path there. But palms must be lined up along the other side because they kind of stick out on the edge. It's the edge of the photo on that side, so we can't really see it, but there are some palm fronds sticking out there. And at the end of the room is the potted plant that was mentioned in the video, much smaller, the Strassenia. And next to that is the only kind of traditional looking funeral floral arrangement that I can see. And it's circular with an anchor inside. And that's next to a set of stairs that go on up to the second floor, which has an open balcony that goes all the way around. And in this photo, I think you can see 3 portraits that hang on the railings. And they're, as far as I know, they're still there. They were there the last time I was there. Neshka can probably tell me if I'm wrong when we're done here. And this building is now called the Stephen and Peter Sachs Museum, SACHS. Before the pandemic, it had reopened after being closed for a long time. So the next photo, this is the tree that was mentioned that she said that she climbed. And I just think it's just a really interesting, weird, to me, it looks like a weird tree. So this photo is like if you're standing under it looking up. So you're not standing back looking at the fronds toward it. You're kind of standing under it. And the trunk is pretty thin, at least where this photo is. The trunk is pretty thin and it's really not much wider than the branches. And instead of the branches kind of sticking out everywhere, there are 3 branches on each side. Like, so imagine if you put your fingers together, your right hand and your left hand, you put your fingers together and your thumb together to kind of make a circle, like pretend like you're putting your hands around a cup or a small tree trunk. So see if you can follow this. This is what I thought when I was thinking this. It looks like there's like a branch on your right hand, a branch on your left hand, and then a branch like where your fingers touch. But they're all like almost right around each other. Like they're just a couple inches apart. So it's like your left hand, your right hand, your fingers. And then there's a big space that looks like maybe 2 feet of just nothing. There's nothing there. And then the same thing repeats again. And these branches stick straight out like arms. And it's 3, again, 3, bump, bump, bump around. And then there's another like maybe 2 feet of nothing. And then it repeats again. It's just a very strange thing. So it just seemed very interesting to me. I just wanted to point that one out. And this is the last photo. This is a banana plant. What struck me about this is that the widest part of the plant looks like an enormous piece of asparagus to me. So even if you've not seen a piece of asparagus, but you felt an asparagus, you know how it feels like things are overlapping. Like there's little green parts that overlap each other. It's almost like they're woven together. And that's what I thought of when I saw that part of the banana tree. And the actual leaves of this plant are gigantic. I tried to look at the size of the bananas that are on here to tell you how many bananas long it was. That didn't really work, partly because I don't know if these are full grown bananas or if these are baby bananas or what they are. It looks to me total guess, and I'm sure Janet will correct me when I'm done here if I'm wrong, but it looks like they're maybe, I don't know, 10 bananas long. So these are big, these are big leaves. That's a total guess. But and then the bananas bunch, they're curved upward. So imagine when you're holding a banana, and the little stem part, that's what's connected to the plant, and then it curves upwards. So I learned that I did some banana research. I learned that a single banana is called a finger, and a grouping of fingers makes up a hand. And then multiple hands grow together in a cluster. So we're looking at a cluster or a bunch of bananas. So on this bunch, there are about 5 hands, and those are basically rings of bananas, okay? So what I can see in this photo, it looks like I can see about 50 bananas. It's a lot of bananas, is what I'm trying to say. It's a lot of bananas because we can't see the other side. So something else I found really interesting is hanging down from the middle of this bunch is this long flower stem. And as soon as I saw this, it looks exactly like a spine to me. Like if you've ever felt a model at the doctor's office of a spine that looks like it has a vertebrae, you know, like every inch or so, there's like a little ring around it. And this photo doesn't show it, and it's not in the video, but I was looking at pictures of banana plants, and often at the end of this stem are these huge blooms at the end, which I just thought was really fascinating. So those are all the interesting things. I'm going to stop my screen share now so you all can ask your questions, talk to Janet, or Janet can correct anything that I just said that was wrong. I do have a correction. I have a correction when I listened to this at the beginning. For some reason I said you're looking down on ferns. They were not ferns, those were palms. So if anyone is going to correct me on that, just so you know, we were not looking down on ferns, we were looking down on palms. So there we go. I hope you all could enjoy the video, and that my descriptions were okay and you can understand what I was talking about. Does anyone have any specific questions for Janet? I will, can I unmute you all? Oh, I do have a trick here. If you don't want to talk out loud, you can talk out loud. You can just say hello. You can turn on, please feel free to turn on your cameras if you want to, and you want to raise your hands. Also, if you want to just virtually raise your hand, if you are on a Windows, you can hit Alt-Y, and that will raise your hand. Or if you're on a Mac, you can hit Option-Y, and that will raise your hand. I am going to just start unmuting people because it is set to unmute everyone, for you all to be able to unmute yourselves. But you might not, it might not be that accessible, basically.
Megan, can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, okay. It's Rita.
Oh, thank you, Rita.
No, wow. I've got a ton of questions.
Okay. I knew you would have questions, Rita. Thank you for coming through.
Oh my God. Okay, well, stop me when, okay. First off, excellent description from both of you with the stories of the plants and the Climatron, and the background, and the audio description was excellent. That was really good. You did a great job.
Thank you, Rita.
You really did. It's here. Okay. All right. Here a couple. No. All right. The Climatron is 70 feet tall at the highest point. Yes.
Yes.
Good. I'm glad Janet knows the answer. Yes.
And what happens when the plants get too big? Like they grow past 70 feet. Do you start cutting that? What do you do?
Well, that's a great question. And yes, we do. We actually do annual pruning. every year between January and February that we do give the plants a haircut because they can't grow more than the 70 feet. So that's a great question.
Is there straight earth underneath the clump so the roots can go as far as they want to go? I mean, can the roots of everything go as far down? You know how like you put a plant in a pot and the roots get bound up, you know?
Well,
is that not the
no, actually, that is also a good question. The roots on a lot of these plants are very, very shallow because if you think about the rainforest, it gets a lot of rain. Sometimes it can get up to about 400 inches of rain a year in some of these tropical rainforests. And so that they keep all the roots very shallow to the ground and so they can absorb as much of the water as they possibly can. And it's also very, very dense in the rainforest. The very top of the rainforest is very tall and there's lots of plants. There's several different layers of a rainforest, and down the forest floor, they're just struggling to get the water because it takes so long for the rain to disseminate from the top of the rainforest down to the forest floor. So the roots really don't grow very deep at all. In fact, Deb talked about some of the roots on some of those plants, that tree, Megan, that you talked about that you think is so interesting. They have those what they call prop roots to help support the tree from falling over. So did that help answer your question?
It sure did.
Yeah, that same tree, that was the one that had the like a pyramid of, and they look like giant roots that are above ground, basically.
Yes.
Wow. Well, I'm going to be quiet and let some other people, but I got more questions, so I will be quiet and let other people talk. Yeah.
Okay, this is Cindy. I want to jump in with a question.
Yes, please do.
Okay, and I also want to join Rita in complimenting you on your presentation. It was really, really good. So my question is, I was absolutely fascinated when you were talking about the banana plant. And you
it's
said that
fascinating,
it's not
right? It's so interesting.
It is fascinating because it's not a tree, because there's not any wood. And I can't wait to tell my kids this because they're very interested in horticulture. So did you say that a banana plant is an herb? Did I get that right?
That is correct. It's the world's largest herb.
Wow,
So
that is so cool.
It is very fascinating.
Okay.
And it's always a trick question to ask people because it truly is not a tree. It's not have a woody trunk to it. It's all very soft. If you push into it, as Deb said, you can actually cut the leaf. It's like furled up leaves, rolled up leaves that unfurl as it grows.
Well, I think I saw a banana plant at, God, this was so many years ago, but it was at either Epcot or somewhere within, Disneyland or Disney World, whichever one it is. And I just thought it was such a cool plant, but I always thought it was a tree. So that just really caught my attention. And I love bananas.
How tall do you think that banana plant is? I didn't really have a concept of what the size of it would be.
I'm going to say it's 40 feet tall because,
wow.
Again, the height of the Climatron is 70 feet. So it doesn't go quite, maybe a little more than half the height of the Climatron. So, yeah, they get pretty big. But as she said, they only bear fruit once. So once the bananas are, that one particular plant bears the fruit, they do cut it back in little pups. Then they call little pups grow up from the other side, from the roots, and start another plant.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
Questions? Anybody else?
I have lots of other things to share if you have an interest in any other areas of the Climatron.
Do you still have the orchid show every year?
Well, that's another excellent question. We did until last year was our last one, because we discussed a little bit at the beginning before everyone joined in. The Missouri Botanical Garden is undergoing a lot of construction right now. We're actually creating a brand new entrance into the garden. So the facility, the room that they use for all of our flower shows, specifically the orchid show, there was no longer a space to do that. We do hope to get that started back up again once our new visitor center entrance is completed in 2022-23. We have a temporary entrance right now that's being used, but we don't have a space to have our beloved orchid show right now.
Okay.
And for those of you that are interested in orchids, next week, next Tuesday, same time, same place, we will be discussing orchids with Carol.
Yes.
Okay, wonderful.
I have another question.
Yes, Rita.
At the beginning of the video, you mentioned the word Chikuli.
Yes.
Do you have Chikuli glass in the Climatron, or was I misunderstanding?
That was a Chikuli glass. It was a glass sculpture. We had an exhibit from Dale Chikuli in the garden in 2006. And we have a few pieces that were actually purchased and donated back to the garden. The Sunset Herons was the piece that you saw in the Climatron. And then some have, if you've been to the garden, saw the beautiful blue chandelier at the entranceway in what we call our Ridgeway Center, the entrance into the garden. And then we have some other pieces in the rose garden, we call the trellises. And another piece in the what we call the central axis that you see by the front door of the Climatron that are called Walla Walla onions. So we have several pieces of his glassware.
Neat.
Rita, I'm glad that you said that, because I realized in that description that I gave, I said I never said it was a glass sculpture. I don't believe I used the word glass. That deduction for me.
It gave me the impression that it was some kind of feature, like
Right.
It wasn't a plant, like it was like, oh, is that a sculpture? Is that a, so anyway, yeah, you did good. You did.
Questions from anybody else? We have a couple minutes left. It's 6:42 right now. We are set to end at 6:45. So people jump in with your questions. Don't be scared. Raise your hand. Again, if you're on a computer, if you're on a Windows, you can hit Alt-Y, or on a Mac, you can hit Option-Y. You can unmute yourself. You can also send a chat. Chat to everyone is off, but you can chat to me if you would rather do that.
Well, if nobody else has any questions, I just want to compliment you all again on a wonderful job. And you have a great animated voice for describing, if that makes any sense. Yeah, you really do.
Well, I'm trying my best, and I will say a shout out to Mike, who helped me record the audio description for that. And you may have noticed that we had to record the word hexagonal or hexagonal. We went over that many times, and I think I ended on hexagonal right after I said, okay, I'm going to say hexagonal, and then we pressed record, and I said hexagonal. But so shout out to Mike for helping edit that as well. And actually, I do want to shout out the video. The original video came from the Botanical Garden that was produced by them to begin with, by Cassidy, and I'm sorry I forgot the other person's name, but they made this video and we swiped it from them. And Jennifer, if you are available and you have any information you'd like to tell us about that, feel free as well. But that video is available on YouTube, and this recording will also I will send out to you too.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah, this is Jennifer. Hello, everyone. The videos really, when 2020 hit, our goal was to create some virtual behind the scenes tours of the garden. And so this is one of those series of a virtual opportunity to see what's going on at the garden, kind of that behind the scenes. So our communications team was Cassidy and Christina that produced those videos. The one that you'll see next week is behind the scenes in the orchid range, which not many people get to hear about or see. And then we also have one behind the scenes Teahouse Island, which is in Japanese garden, which is not open to the public. And many people don't get to see that. So that's really special, a special virtual option as well. So we have a lot of virtual tours online on our YouTube channel just because of the last year and just giving folks exposure to the garden.
And also I will point out they have a lot of really nice meditation videos on their YouTube channel as well. So
I have just a few last comments if there's not any other questions.
go for it.
Okay. Well, I just, again, want to take the opportunity to say thank you for having me with you all tonight. And Megan, you did do a great job describing things. But I just want to share with you just some fun facts just to close out the session. The Climatron is definitely one of my favorite places of the garden. It's one of the 3 conservatories we have there. But what's fun about it is that it's like taking a trip to, as Deb said, the jungle, the tropical rainforest, which the largest rainforest we have on the planet is the Amazon down in South America. But it really does transport you to there. And it just makes me remember and remind myself how important the rainforest is to our planet. We get over a quarter of all of our medicines that we take from the rainforest. You know, I think of things like ginger is good for anti-nausea. Cinnamon is good for your blood sugar. But one that's specific that relates you back to Henry Shaw is quinine, which helps to treat malaria. And that's what our founder, Henry Shaw, actually did pass away from back in 1889. So there's just so many things, the fruit that you eat. Think about not just the bananas, but avocados and pineapples and guava and jackfruit and starfruit. So lots of things come from the rainforest.
Oh wait, Rita has another question.
Okay.
And I do not know the answer to this. If the banana bush is an herb, is the banana itself still a fruit? Or an individual, yes, an individual banana is a finger and so her question is, an individual banana is a finger, a bunch of banana is a hand, correct? But so one is a finger, and then all of them that are in that little grouping are a hand, and then the whole thing is a bunch, right?
Right.
But I don't know if a banana is a fruit, right?
It is a fruit. Anything that's got seeds inside is a fruit. So.
There we go. That was a good question, Rita.
Bananas have seeds?
If you look inside, sure, there's little tiny seeds. If you slice a banana.
I guess I never saw them because I cover it with peanut butter. It's a great breakfast.
Yes.
I agree. And now every time you eat it, you should think about how they grow.
I will.
Does anybody else have any last parting questions or anything? Otherwise, it's 6:48. So I want to thank Janet so much for being with us and educating us. And I want to thank all of you for coming and listening to me again and putting up with all of my emails. Please, if anybody has any problems with any of the links or anything, or if there was anything that I did tonight that was not accessible, please let me know so I can fix it for next week and beyond. So next week, we're going to do orchids. The week after that, the tea house. It is the same link. And so if you have already registered and you put in all 3 of those dates and the whatever, then the pick date, the pick thing that Rita mentioned earlier, it's the same link. I will send it again next week because everyone knows that you lose the Zoom link somewhere in your email. The more days that go by, I will send it again. And please feel free to continue to share that other people can register. You don't have to have been here this week to go to next week, although there might be a quiz about bananas at the end of next week's performance, but maybe not. So if that's all, I just want to thank you all so much and tell you good night.
Okay, thank you, ladies.
Thanks, Megan.
Thank you,
Thanks,
everybody.
Janet. Thanks,
Thank
Janet.
you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.